Okay. So yes, hi everyone, welcome to our MAS Alumni Q&A panel. As you can see from the slide, we have alumni from all three of our programs: Architecture-Based Enterprise Systems Engineering, Data Science and Engineering, and Wireless Embedded Systems. I'm not going to go into everyone's name and all of that because I'm going to let the alumni introduce themselves. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Stacy and I are the program managers for all three of the programs. We have other MAS team members on this meeting as well. Sorry, I don't even know if I introduced myself. My name is Yvonne. I'm the assistant director of the MAS programs, and I am happy to have all of you guys join us tonight. This is one of my favorite, and I think the team's favorite events, because we get to hear back from our alums and we get to kind of reunite with them for a few hours via Zoom, and also get to hear firsthand their experience as well as you guys on how they did in the program, what they got from it, and all of that fun stuff. So we have some preset questions that we're going to go ahead and start off and ask the alums, and then we'll open it up at the end for any questions from the audience. So I am going to just start it off. To keep it, organized, I'll go program by program to have you guys each introduce yourself. So let's start off with AESE, Architecture-Based Enterprise Systems Engineering. We're going to ask you to please state your name, your job title, the company you work for, and when you completed the program. So let's start it off with Christine from AESE.
Hi, and good evening to everyone, and so glad that you're interested in these programs. My name is Christine Kirkpatrick. I'm Division Director of Research Data Services at the San Diego Supercomputer Center, which is part of the University of California system and is located at UC San Diego. And I did the program I finished in 2013. So 10 years.
Thank you, Christine. Let's move on to John.
My name is John Simons. I am the manager for software quality assurance with Northrop Grumman for the Global Surveillance Division. I completed the program in 2020.
Thank you. And then Michael.
Hey, good evening, you guys, and welcome. I'm glad to hear you guys are excited about this. I'm Michael Winslow. I work for the Department of the Navy. I work for a command called Naval Information Warfare Center Pacific. And I am the Deputy Department Head for the Communications and Networks Department here. And I was in the AESE program. I just completed in September, so I was in the 2022 cohort.
Awesome, thank you, Michael. Let's move on to the Data Science and Engineering program. Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian Cook, Senior Director of Engineering at Qualcomm, and I finished this program in 2021.
Thank you. Disha.
Hello all, my name is Disha Singla. I'm a Senior Director for Machine Learning Engineering at Capital One, and I graduated in 2018.
Great, and then Nellie.
Hi, I'm Nellie Eleanor Hopel. I graduated in 2022, and I'm currently working with an asset manager in Israel to launch their Diamond certified using blockchain certificates on the diamond industry here in the United States. So stay tuned.
Great. And then the Wireless Embedded Systems program, Wes, let's start with Aaron.
Hi, my name is Aaron Hughes. I am a senior staff engineer at Qualcomm in wireless R&D, and I finished in 2019, actually.
Great. Cynthia.
Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia Huang, and my current job title is Software Engineer 2, working at Tandem Diabetes Care, and I finished the program in 2021.
Great. Jeff.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeff Klenko, and I'm a technical program manager at Amazon, and I finished last year in 2022.
Perfect. And last but not least, Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Heiser. I'm an electronics engineer at Naval Information Warfare Center Pacific, and I completed in June 2022.
Awesome. Thank you guys for those great introductions. So we'll jump right into the questions, and I'm just going to go back to Ryan and go backwards through everyone. The question is, how was the knowledge you gained in your program? How has it contributed to your career growth?
So some of the projects I work on are wireless embedded systems directly. So one of which is a nanosatellite project where we are actually using BPSK and QPSK waveforms, which were taught in the West 268 class. On top of that, I'm actually currently doing a proposal where I will do waveform development utilizing the concepts we learned, including equalization, time synchronization, and bit error rate calculations.
Great. Jeff, do you want to share?
Absolutely. I would say that a lot of what I've been responsible for at Amazon deals with like a lot of ultra wideband systems, and so a lot of real time like location sensing in like warehouses, even wireless protocol issues where we have devices that are not communicating properly, having to analyze like the frame level kind of stuff, like really digging deep. So a lot of what we covered in the program ended up using. So go figure.
Great. That's always great to hear, right? Cynthia.
So for me, I feel like it's a little different because when I was in the program, I was actually at a different company working as electrical test engineer. And through the program, like from the knowledge I learned from the program, I was able to get an embedded software engineer position at my current job that works with wireless communication. So a lot of what I learned apply to what I'm currently working on right now. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, always good to hear when you can leverage the program to get you into a different, job position. Great. Aaron?
Yeah, the program for me benefited quite a bit. I actually had a friend at work ask me today about the program, and I was highly recommending it to him. Let me give you an example. I'm sort of a wireless engineer in the past, but my role at Qualcomm was a software engineer, RF software specifically, but that mostly meant like driver development. So I was very strong on the embedded side coming into the West program. But I was dabbling with trying to make various scripts, like DSP type scripts. And once the West program was finished, when you're at certain meetings, there was an opportunity came across to make upsampling, downsampling filters, which is something we had directly covered. So I sort of like pushed myself into this role, and I said, hey, I could probably make this. And there was a little hesitation, but it came out that I actually just finished this UCSD program. So long story short, I very successfully made these filters, and step by step, I've been slowly taking over the majority of the RF DSP scripts for R&D. So it's greatly benefited me, and it's great to be able to talk knowledgeably on the subject with other people, and it's surprising how you think some people really know it well, and then you start talking with them because of the course, you realize they're a little shaky in some areas too. And so it gave me more confidence to talk to some people and admit that I don't know something, and found out that they didn't either. I'm basically like half systems engineer at this point, half software engineer. And I directly attribute that to the program.
Wow, great. Thank you. I mean, we always love when our alums are recommending the program to, their colleagues. So thank you for doing that. And it sounds like the program kind of came into your life at the perfect time. So that's great to hear. Let's move on to data science. Nellie.
Yeah, so my background's also a little bit different. My background's always been in financial services, and in particular in investment management. And only recently has even the CFA Institute, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst, come out with a data science certificate. And for kicks, because I'm on the board here in San Diego with the chapter here, I'm sort of a guinea pig in one of the first cohorts in that. And it is such a breeze. And I took a big gap from undergraduate and working in financial services and then coming back and doing my master's degree, having only done C++. So Python was new to me, and I can tell you that the program is okay for a wide range of people. And what I really benefited from is now in my industry, because AI is so mainstream, and when you hear it on the news when you're driving around, you know that you have to be involved and you have to be able to talk fluently. And I can assure you that the program has done that. And the colleagues that I've met, I'm still very much in touch with, and I think that bears a lot from. We were also, by the way, the class of 2022, we were the COVID group, so we didn't benefit from in class really until the very end, and we still managed to bond on Discord. And the cohort, certainly the average, I probably brought the average age up quite a bit, but they made me feel young, and they certainly made sure that I graduated. So thank you to Yvonne and the rest of the team for that. Who am I handing it off to?
Thank you, Nellie. That was a great answer, especially here from someone who came from a different background, and went through the program. So that's always great to hear. And yes, I was sad that you guys were the COVID cohort, but you guys were so social on Discord and everything, and still bonded even being remote. And that was amazing. But I think one of the draws of our data science program is the fact that it's in person. You all just kind of develop that relationship and that bond during class period, during meals, having breakfast and lunch together. So I'm glad you guys still were able to do that remotely. We will pass it on to Disha.
Data science and engineering program was a very well-rounded program with a good mix of theoretical and practical knowledge and group work. I think it truly prepares you for what machine learning is all about, actually, like data science, machine learning, data engineering, software engineering, cloud computing, business acumen, and like work in a group to solve the problems. So I was self-taught before the program, and I still continue to learn. But what is exceptional about this program is it gave me this knowledge, this platform on which I continue to work and build today. And then I think it's all very relevant to the work that I do and that my team members do. So, and also I highly recommend this program to people who have reached out to me in the past, because there have been a lot of people who want to transition from the software into the software engineering into machine learning engineering. And then I think this program kind of prepares those folks, and they can make that transition easily.
Great. Thank you so much for that answer. Very detailed. Let's pass it on to Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian. I've been a long time Qualcomm employee, and I've been in telecom systems for most of my career. And the last 5, 6, 7 years, my job has evolved to include a lot of data science, a lot of machine learning. I think it's pretty ubiquitous in telecoms as well as all industries, really. So it became relevant, and I wanted more background in it. And I think it's a great way to jump into it. I was remarking to Yvonne, it's like, yeah, there's great MOOCs out there. You can get a good education from online stuff, but there's a lot of advantages to doing it with a cohort. Degrees are still important. It's nice to have a credential at the end. And it's local, make a lot of industry contacts. I've hired multiple people out of the program, so that was a big benefit as well. So I recommend it. I think it's worthwhile and certainly worth checking out.
Thank you, Brian. And Brian has graciously written up kind of a FAQ overview of his experience in the program. So if you guys are interested in reading it, reach out to me.
For sure, yeah. I've had so many people ask me about it that I just wrote up an FAQ about it, and that way I can just ship it off to them if I get a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thank you so much for doing that.
Is that on GitHub, Brian?
Feel free to stick it up there. Yeah. It's pretty frank. It's not unflattering, but it's quite frank.
Yes, and we appreciate that. Thank you. Let's move on to AESE. Mike, hand it off to you.
Hey, thanks. AESE is a little bit different than the DSE program and the WES program, and the fact that it's more big picture and systems thinking. So I learned a lot about how to architect and design an enterprise. And so being in the line management, this really helps me in my type of a role where I'm trying to figure out how to stitch together all these Navy systems to meet the needs of the warfighter. I'll also say one of the big things I took away, and a big focus of the program is they don't necessarily call it this, but model-based system engineering. And so I learned the details of what it takes to be a practitioner of MBSE and all the complexities and nuances of putting together a MBSE model, and also the importance of making the model so that it can be shared and understood by others, so that you're really doing model-based system engineering across the whole team.
Great, thank you. The AESE program is different from DSE and WES, so yes, thank you for that. And then now, John.
Let me piggyback a little bit on Michael's answer about thinking about things in terms of the enterprise. Obviously, going up higher levels of management, they want you to have a much bigger picture with a broader impact. So within that the first or second quarter, I transitioned, and one of the benefits of the program was it allowed me to move into my new role at a higher level of management, because I was able to focus on enterprise level goals, not only in my resume, but the interview. So I definitely credit the AESE program for that. And since then, that level of thinking has done a lot to help me talk to across stovepipes with other directors and so forth about things that are at a much broader picture level, and ensuring that I'm able to frame it in a way so it dovetails with both of our interests.
Great, thank you. And then, of course, Christine.
Yeah, so I mean, in some ways, I owe the AESE program the job I have now. This program starts in late September because it's on the quarter system at UCSD. And I interviewed for my role at SDSC in August. And so I put on my resume that, because I'd been accepted into the program, put on my resume that, that I would begin this program. And I got into the final interview with the director of the Supercomputer Center, an astrophysicist who's, 4 times as smart as anyone I've ever met. And he said, systems of systems engineering. Okay. And I said, well, I haven't taken any classes yet. I haven't even stepped into the program, but I plan to. And he said, great, I need a systems of systems engineer. And I said, okay, but you know that I'm not one yet, right? And he said, you're going to be. and I got the job, and I started this program along with my new job, and didn't look back. I also negotiated some of the tuition as part of my hiring package. I would say that the other things I've gained from this program, it's what's helped me take on national and international roles. I didn't come to the program without any skills, but they kind of took what was there, and with all of the one-on-one attention, kind of helped me sharpen some things, helped me see other examples of the ways people presented and cast projects and architected things. And I learned different things from the others in the class, as well as the feedback that the instructors gave. And I honestly use it every single workday, what I learned in AESE.
Wow, that's awesome. That is a great story. And especially to hear that the program helped you before you even completed or started the program. So that is great to hear. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all for sharing. Our next question is based on, we advertise the program to a lot of people as its target audience is working professionals. So pretty much all of you, I think, have stated that you are currently working full time. And so one of the big questions that a lot of our prospective students and applicants have are, how do you balance your studies with your job and other personal commitments? Classes are all day, every other Friday and Saturday. So that's a commitment then. And then, of course, you have 40 plus hours a week that you're working full time. And then a lot of you have families and personal commitments. So what is your advice, or how did you balance all of that while in the program? I know a lot of you may have similar answers, so I'm kind of just going to open up to the program specifically, and any of you can answer, and then we'll move from program to program. So let's start it off with AESE.
I could start. Okay, to have engineers design an efficient class schedule is really something to behold. And this is this program. It was designed by people who don't like their time wasted. And your time will not be wasted. And it was also designed to help you create good boundaries. So I was a little stressed about it. I had 2 kids in high school. I had a third through a blended family that was in elementary school. I had a pretty demanding job. I was just starting. I thought it was pretty crazy to try and do this, but I did it with the hope it was possible. And I actually found the Friday work days at AESE were kind of like a break, because you're not in meetings. You might, emails are rolling in. You could keep Slack open. We didn't use Slack yet then, but you can keep chat open and answer things here and there. But that part I didn't think was too hard. And people kind of learned to accept it. And no one expected me around on Saturdays. And sometimes I could do a couple emails during breaks and catch up. And I don't mean to speak just as a, gender stereotyping as a woman worrying about stuff with her kids, because I think a lot of the dads in the cohort had the same thing, where they worried about, am I shortchanging my kids with this time? And same thing, the kids were pretty fine with it, pretty used to it. But I'd start the week when I was going to be away on Saturday thinking, okay, what do I want to do this week that's going to make me feel like a good parent? And then I would do something active with them or pay attention to something that they needed. And then when it was Saturday and I was off with, honestly, my friends in class, I didn't worry about it.
Very much agree. I think that the fact that the schedule is just so well optimized helped me ensure that I could plan events out in advance. Like Christine said, I try to spend quality time with my family, and I'm kind of a night owl anyway. So when everybody was going to bed or settling down to just watch TV or whatever at night, I'd put in an hour or 2 studying. And then I'd say the biggest help for me is that AESE had 2 sorts of books. There were the technical books, but there were also sort of strategic books that talked about, for instance, blitz scaling or something like that. And a lot of those were available on Audible. So I bought everything I could on Audible, and during my commutes, during my free time, I listened to those to be able to try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
I think that they did a great job of covering it. The only thing I'll add is I agree that the on day 1 when you're entering the program when you're going to have class, so it's kind of nice having that schedule built out. It's every other week. You know exactly when you're going to be committed. So I just worked with my family and with my office, my coworkers, to just work around that. So just setting the boundaries and the expectations with everybody, and we made it work. I guess the only other thing I'll say is, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't easy, but it was doable. And so I think the key is just knowing what you're signing yourself up for and just setting those boundaries, and then you can do it. And it goes by fast.
Yeah,
I'd like to add something, if I may. One of the things that surprised me, and this might be unique to the West program, but that was, it was quite partner-based. And that wasn't something that they indicated right with the very first class. You were definitely on your own. But from the second class on, it was pretty heavy with having a partner. And the way everybody worked is whoever you picked for your partner in that second class, you tended to stick with for the whole course, because no one else wanted to switch. So that's something to keep in mind. And I'm bringing that up simply because when you're doing the all-day Friday and the all-day Saturday classes in that second year, if the partner you've chosen is kind of a slacker, you're going to suffer. So that's just, if you're really serious about going into the program, have your eye on finding a good quality partner that you can rely on.
That is definitely good advice. I think in all 3 programs, there's a lot of partner or group, projects, teams. I know especially with AESE, they're in a group from the beginning. Wes, Aaron talking about the partners. I know DSC, there's different group projects, and the capstone project is a group project for both DSC and West as well. So That is great advice. And I also wanted to mention John's advice about the audiobooks is a great idea as well. And since Aaron answered, let's pass it over to Wireless Embedded Systems to also contribute to this question. If you want to add anything based on what Aaron might have said.
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback on that. I mean, in addition to having a partner, the cohort was extremely, I mean, we were all extremely helpful to each other. I mean, obviously there's a time and place for individual work, like when you're studying for the exams and whatnot. But a lot of the times, since we all had different schedules, we relied heavily on each other in comparing things where if something didn't look right. And obviously we had amazing, faculty and TAs that made extra office hours available to, sometimes extra office hours on the off, Saturdays. And, those were extremely helpful. And so, my bit of advice is to every opportunity for help that's there, attend every single one of them and come ready with questions. So a lot of what we would do is we would attempt every problem as quickly as possible during like the first weekend, like the same weekend that it was assigned. And we try to like identify areas of like gaps in our knowledge. And then we'd first interact with each other. We had a Slack channel. We would ask each other questions from the cohort. And then some would say like, that's a good question. We should ask that at the next TA session. And so that usually ended up happening. And I think because of that collaboration, it really helped out tremendously in being able to cover a lot of the gaps. And I, with all the time crunch, I wouldn't know how we would have been able to do it if we didn't have that support system. So it's not just the partners, but also leveraging the rest of the cohort as well. Because, everyone picks up bits and pieces, both from lectures and from, the different backgrounds we all have as well.
Awesome. Great answer. Ryan, being in the same cohort.
I'd like to add a bit on what Jeffrey's saying too. I had forgotten. I'm glad you brought that up, Jeffrey. For anyone who really is seriously considering the WEST program, to give you an example, when it's every other Saturday, they tended to have a tutorial session on those off Saturdays. So in actuality, you were attending UCSD every single Saturday. Now, it wasn't 8 hours on the tutorial session. It might have only been like 2 or 3 hours. But I remember when I was going in, my wife being like, what are you doing? I thought you were going every other week. And suddenly I'm constantly at UCSD. And frankly, Jeffrey was right. Without those tutorial sessions, unless you're like a genius coming in, you're going to need to go attend those things to get the homework assignments done.
Good addition. Thank you, Aaron. I was going to say, Ryan, being in the same cohort as Jeff, did you want to add on to what he had said?
Or yeah, so I mean, he mentioned Slack, and I will say that I feel like our cohort was a little late to the game, especially with COVID, before we created that. But then by the end, we had almost everybody in there, and you can make your own groups. And so getting outside your 1 or 2 person group that you had really helped. And then on top of that, it is hard to find new partners, but early on, don't be afraid to jump if it makes sense for you. And then I'll also say that kind of going back to what Aaron said, like spousal buy-in or whoever you're living with, like getting them on board and understanding that you're doing your best to juggle everything really helps.
Great. Cynthia, do you have anything to add?
I don't have much to add. Everyone else kind of stated like everything. That's really good. Like scheduling, I guess work-life balance or work, study, and life balance is important. Like make sure to still have a life would be the recommendation I give, if you can, of course.
That is good advice. Thank you, Cynthia. I know Wes, used a lot of Slack, while DSC might use Discord. So definitely a lot of different platforms that the different programs have used. So with that, I'm going to jump over to the data science program. Do you guys want to share how you guys balanced your work life?
I can go first. My situation was like Cynthia. So my job was very demanding, and my kids were very little. One was 1.5 years old and another one was 4 years old at that time when I joined the program. So honestly, it was not easy. And another problem, which was like, I think it's my own created problem, was that I have mostly been an A student all my life. And that mindset initially made it really hard for me. And then I had to keep very open mindset and had to understand that what I wanted and needed out of the program. Because school was not the only thing, right? There are a lot of things. So I had to train my brain and have a mindset that I'm not here to ace, but I'm here to like learn. And then I had to settle in like, okay, I cannot be perfect in everything. I need to be like juggling things, as everybody has been saying, and I should be okay. I cannot be an A plus. I should be happy to if I get a B plus, if you will. So I lowered down my expectations, but tried to do things right. And another thing which everybody is saying is like, please lean on to your peers and the people in the class and your teachers, right? And so what I did is I leaned on to my study group, to the folks, and I used all the help. An example is like my kids were little, right? So every Saturday I would go to school, I would hire a nanny because I don't want to go home back to a grumpy husband. Taking care of the toddlers, right? So just use all the help. And then as everybody said, they were very creative. So I was very creative because I would do my homeworks when I'm taking my kids to their taekwondo classes or their extracurriculars. So I'll be just like coding during that time. So that kind of helped. And then setting up the boundaries and having a strict schedule kind of helped a lot too. But and I remember like I used to literally sleep. I was like a walking zombie. I would only sleep 4 to 5 hours every night, just like juggling things. But I just think like if you're determined and like with the support of your family and friends, and for me personally, that mindset shift are like the keys that I was able to make it through.
Great. Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry to hear you didn't get much sleep, but you made it through the 2 years. So
Yes.
Anybody else from data science want to share? Brian or Nellie?
Yeah, look, I'm a single mom, 4 kids, worked full time, and the 2 years go by really quickly. And we were COVID, so we had the benefit of all of the classes being recorded, which I found incredibly helpful because I could go back when I had my sort of ADD moment and couldn't pay attention after however many hours of listening to lecture to then go back, or indeed even go back and review. The Discord was enormously helpful. The group sessions, I relied heavily on my partners. I think there is some truth to the group that forms early on stays together. I was very fortunate, and we kind of, the benefit of staying with the same group, if you're lucky enough to pick the right partners, is that you learn how you work as a team, right? So you know your strengths and weaknesses, and you're able to leverage off each other in that way too. But what I would encourage everyone is to understand your support network before you come into the program and really lean into the program, because it goes very quickly. And there were so many Fridays where work demanded me at some point or other, and I was on these conference calls and then having to watch the videos later on, and really wish I had done the reverse, because the time goes by so quickly, and there is so much knowledge, and it's a dense program, and I think the ability to reach out to some of these incredible lecturers and professors, and indeed even other cohort members, is really valuable. So it goes by very quickly, so make the most of your time.
Thank you, Nellie. Really quick, I did want to add that we actually record all of our lectures, not just during the COVID period. So we understand that a lot of you, pretty much almost all of you guys, are working professionals. And so the lectures are always recorded, so that you guys can reference it. You know, if you do have to miss a portion of class or something because of a work commitment, or just a refresher because it is a long day. You've got almost 6 to 8 hours of lecturing going on. again, each program is different with the structure and the format of things. But for the most part, just wanted to reiterate that we do record all the lecture. I think for the West program, the lectures are recorded, but the labs are not, because the labs are hands-on in person. So I just wanted to mention that. But when it comes to a lecture, like lecture slides, instructors talking, we do record and capture all of that. And I just wanted to make that clear for everybody. And so then, Brian, do you have any last words you want to add to wrap up this question?
I would just say, yeah, it's a thing. I mean, you got to be ready for it. But I was remarking to a friend once that the way that DSE is structured, it's all day Friday and Saturday every other week. And I agree with the sentiment that Friday is almost like a break. And I would add that people typically respect you doing that. If you told work, hey, I'm going to knock off every other Friday and go do a MOOC and study data science, you'd probably not go over it very well, but people respect it. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, master's degree. Oh, yeah, I got to go UCSD. It's a different matter. And it's one of the advantages of the program, for better or worse, is that you get a lot of respect and I guess leeway in terms of actually dedicating the time to do it. I think consistency is the most important thing, which I often fail to do. If you can just put in a little bit of time every day, just like everything in life, that's the way that you're gonna be successful, which I consistently fail to do. So I had some tough weekends and nights. Most of the exams are take home. You work on them yourselves and stuff, but in terms of just homeworks and having the community is imperative, because you can get stuck on something and spin your wheels for hours. But if you can just ask your fellow students, like, hey, what's going on with this problem or this programming problem, you can really eliminate hours from your schedule. If you like what you're doing and you're disciplined about it, I don't think it's too bad. I was not, so I paid the price for that. But
thank you, Brian, for your honesty on that. And yeah. I hope everyone takes your advice to be consistent. Okay, I'm actually going to pass it over to Stacy to ask some additional questions. So, Stacy, how about you take the next question?
Sure. So everybody, can you guys hear me okay? All right, cool. And I'll also just add, like, I was a full-time student as well while working here to support you all. And a lot of what you guys said echoes true, stay consistent, set boundaries, try to have a schedule. So, I mean, I feel a lot of what you say is very true. So, but it's doable and, it's only temporary, right? A year or two, and then you're done. And the benefit far outweighs, I think, any sort of like struggle. So,
that's a good way to put it. 18 months is going to go by either way. So,
yep. It's like, what are you going to do with the time, right?
Yeah.
Do something useful. I guess our next question then kind of segues into what we're just talking about some challenges, and we'll kind of do like a round robin again, and we'll start with AESE. If anybody wants to take the floor, what were some of the biggest challenges during your studies, and what did you do to persevere and overcome those obstacles?
Yep, I'll go. I think there are two challenges that I encountered. Is one, when we come together as a team, it's not necessarily people that have the same knowledge base as us or people that are in the same roles as us. So we had a team of 3 different people from 3 different disciplines. So a lot of our communication and how we thought about problems were different. And sometimes that helped when we were trying to attack things from different perspectives, but sometimes it was a bit of an issue when we wanted to go one way or the other. But I think the way that we overcame that was just with constant meetings in order to try to make sure that we were all on board and we were all focused on what was being done. And then the other one, which had nothing to do with the program, was early on, I had a stroke. And so I had aphasia. I had problems with language and remembering words, couldn't hold a pen very well. So there were like a few weeks there where I couldn't take notes. And that's where some of the pre-recorded classes came in very handy, because I could listen to those then at my leisure and try to type some of those out. And, the best way to overcome that, and honestly, it was probably a lot like physical therapy, was just going through the class and doing what I needed to do, is try to take notes. And eventually I was able to hold a pen and take notes again pretty quick. And my typing speed used to be 99 words a minute. It dropped down to 30, but I got that back up to 99 again. And again, I think it's all just putting the time in, knowing that it's only 1 year, you can get through anything in a year.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that and being so upfront about more of like a personal issue too. I think some of us are a bit hesitant, you know, to sometimes share that kind of stuff. But I mean, we're all human, and I think a lot of us deal with personal stuff like that in addition to work. So thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else from AESE?
That one's pretty hard to touch. I'll just say the biggest challenge, and he hit on it a moment ago, is just biggest challenge. It's also your biggest opportunity is your teammates. So a lot of the AESE program is based upon working with the team. And so just for us, it was just trying to figure out our team cadence. And so we worked through that. We figured out a cadence that worked for us, because on AESE, every class you have an individual final and then you have a team final. And so we just had to work through that. And we got through it easily within the first quarter, and it worked out really well. We had a lot of fun doing it. And then the second thing I'll just say is, you know, it's a college program. It has finals. And so sometimes the finals can be a little daunting, but I heard some others refer to the fact that all the classes are recorded. So that made it really easy. So you could go back and like look stuff up. And also you had teammates, and the professors were always good at getting back to you if you had any questions or needed any clarifications.
Yeah, I'll add, watch it at 1.5 times speed. It's extremely efficient.
And they now have a search feature where it takes it to text and you can search through it. Lots of cool features like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. I wish I had.
So I'll just add, one of the issues I had was I was in a team of 2, and AESE really works better in groups of 4, maybe 3. And so one thing I really appreciated about the advisors of the program is whenever they saw something that didn't quite work, they would fix it in the next year. Like, they really do look at this as an engineering thing. And so every year gets better and better. Although I was grateful that I was able to do it as a 2-person project, because we wanted to focus on something for the UC system that we both worked in. The second thing, which I'm trying to be diplomatic about without saying too much about my group, I love the person I was in a group with. She'll always be one of my lifelong friends. But you know, there's a lot of room for friction when you're working with other people who have their own demands. And so instead of waiting for our first conflict, I said, we're not going to be friends. We're going to act like sisters. And which means if I come in and I don't want to talk for the first hour because I'm tired, I'm just going to say that. And I don't want you to be offended. And she said, okay. And so we did that. We just skipped right ahead to as if we'd known each other our whole lives, and it worked much better. But again, we were both coming in as engineers. So maybe engineers can talk like that and others might not, but I recommend it highly.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Let's see. How about anyone from the DSE program? Care to share?
I can share, Stacy, something more personal. So during the program, my younger son was continuously getting sick for like weeks. And then there was a point that he had 105-degree fever. And that was my breaking point. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to quit. I need a sabbatical. And that's when my friends who were my group, they came in to support, right? And they helped me catch up on the things that I was behind on. So as everybody said, like, it's imperative that you have a good group, good, reliable friends to lean on to. So I would just say like, that is like paramount. And then second thing is like, everybody comes from a different background. I was from an engineering background mostly, and data was there, but statistics was not my forte. That was not part of the education system where I grew up, right? So I had to put in like way more time on the statistics course for data science than like most of my friends or my classmates did. So actually I had to put 2 to 3 times more time. And that's why there was a time that I was, in addition, like 40 hours of work, you just say 40 hours, it's more than that per week. And I was just putting in like around 20, 30 hours per week doing homeworks. And I'm not going to name the professor. I went to one professor and said like, Professor, I'm already doing this much and still it's hard. And the professor's like, yeah, Ms. Singla, start putting 40 hours. I'm not catch up on that homework. But that was funny. But I think there is no substitute for hard work. So that kind of just that mindset, and then having great friends was like something that helped me persevere.
I want to quickly jump in as a program manager, just to mention, you had mentioned the support of your classmates, but I also want to mention the support of the program managers. We're here for you. So if there is something that's going on, we try to be as supportive as possible and provide options for our students. We understand, work, personal life. A lot of things can happen where health does come into play, or you get really busy at work or overloaded at work. We want to know these things, because we're here to support you as well through your program. And we want to be able to provide you options, their leave of absences, possibly withdraw and then returning later to the program. So I just wanted to mention that, for anybody in the program, to lean on your program manager as well, be, open that communication with them, as well as your fellow classmates and the faculty, so that we can help you any way that we can.
Yeah, and I can say that actually that was true in my cohort, Yvonne, because there was somebody at the beginning who had come in from a previous cohort, and then at the end, I know someone for personal reasons had to sort of step out and then graduate, I think, the following year. So, it does happen, and life does get in the way. What I would say is, I think enter it knowing it's going to push you to limits. But it goes so quickly that I think you then look back and maybe wish you'd spend a bit more time. But those final exams, I don't know who mentioned that. I think that it was a long time since I was an undergrad when I came back to get my master's, and that was daunting for sure. And it's time consuming. There's just no two ways about it. But you get out of it what you put in. That's kind of the lesson that I learned.
Yeah, thank you for that. And if you do start to encounter issues or something's on your mind, speak up early as well. Let us know early, because sometimes we're able to, come up with workarounds for things the sooner you tell us versus, waiting until the day that a final might be due. So speak up early. Let us know. We're here to help you. We just might not be able to help you with your homework, but as far as navigating the administrative side of things, we're definitely here for that. Did anybody else want to share anything about challenges and overcoming those challenges? Shall we move on?
I'd like to add one thing. I mean, I think the TAs change with each class, right? And
Yes.
so one thing I found hard is quite early on, we had an incredible TA, and then, that TA set the bar really high. And then, there were a few quarters where the TAs, for whatever reason, we're just not at the same level. And then others sort of came back. And so what I would say is, the TAs are humans themselves. They're also graduate students. So, I think the dependency for me was probably more on my cohort towards the end, and working as a group as opposed to the TA. Although initially it was possibly because we were remote or because we didn't know each other as well. But yeah, that's the other thing that I found hard, is that the quarter system is quick. And so you're having to learn how to respond to different lecture types, because the lectures themselves are different, and as well as the TAs.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'll piggyback on that, because in the West program, we kind of had a slightly different experience where the same TAs kind of followed us through. And I don't know if that was necessarily by design or if that was just incidental to our experience, but it was definitely helpful to have the TAs kind of like evolving with us, since they've graded our homework, they've graded our exams, so they know our strengths and weaknesses, and they'd be able to, when we would meet with them one-on-one, it was really helpful to kind of know what extra things to review, what things to look at, because, as everyone's mentioned, it's really fast. Especially when in our program, we would have 2 classes per quarter. That was a big shocker. And that was when it almost felt like you were juggling you're basically juggling beach balls while spinning on a beach ball over lava. Basically, it's kind of what it felt like at sometimes. And obviously the support of the cohort, as I mentioned earlier, plus all the the staff and definitely the TAs. It was just definitely extremely helpful. So my bit of advice is, regardless of whether the TAs change or stay the same, form that support group, especially within the cohort, and just leverage each other, so that way you can kind of determine your learning style. Obviously, it's been probably many years since undergrad for many of us, and just being able to get back into the groove of it while being able to keep on top of everything, requires like really a team effort here. So in a sense, we're managing our own programs from a program management standpoint, even though we're not all program managers. So it's definitely a lot of skill sets that we develop throughout the program.
One thing I do want to add, one of the challenges I encountered was, since we have discussions typically scheduled during the week after work hours, usually, at least personally, I'm assuming the same for many other students, is that you'll be really tired. So it will be usually like the office hours are maybe 2 hours. So it's a bit hard if you go straight from work into the discussion / office hour. So one thing I did was I would try to take a quick nap right before, so that I can focus better. So I'm not sure if anyone else encountered this too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just making sure you can recharge before a lot of those sessions if possible. Like all right, so to piggyback kind of on this previous question, we're gonna talk about the benefits. So what are some of the biggest benefits that you've experienced during your time in the programs, and then also post completion? I guess we can start with AESE.
I'm always happy to talk, but I'm hanging back to share the airspace.
I'll go after you, Christine.
Or Michael, do you want to start out? No,
I'll let you go first. I can go after.
So again, it's been 10 years. Well, I finished in 2013, so a lot of this happened in 2012 too. So it's been a long time. I've had lots of other things happen, and I could have forgotten. And the fact that these things stay front of mind tells you how valuable the program is. One thing that runs through my head a lot is Alexander Zach, who's one of the instructors, and you will absolutely love him. He has a lot of one-liners that just help you through things. I remember him talking about that, a final, like, don't complain about having a final or being stressed. CEOs do a final before lunch every day. And stuff, I'm not a CEO, but I do get a lot of hard assignments that come out of left field, and it's like just blow up my whole day. And so I think about Alexander Zach, and I just push through. Learning UML and process modeling gave me a whole new way to express myself in a way that other people could understand, which is also why I'm excited that hopefully some people in my division will go through, so they can understand, this language too. But it really, really helps. And a lot of computer science, data science, all sorts of things rely on UML. Understanding business finance, being able to, talk with people with MBAs and who think differently about the world in more of a money sense. I don't have to just sound like a geek, when they talk about a discount rate or something, or IRR, it's like, yep, I'm following. And then the last thing is, the professors are largely people who make a lot of money consulting. Like, UCSD is never going to hire these, SDSC, we're not going to be able to hire these business consultants. They are way too expensive, but they are at your beck and call during the class days, and you can bring any problem to them. And I brought a lot of problems to them, between breaks, at lunch, and it was phenomenal. And I benefited so much from their advice.
I'll go next. Absolutely. The professors, as Christine was saying, are absolutely top notch. They're bringing not just academic knowledge, but real world knowledge where they've been advisors to companies and so forth. And so you're able to really ask deeper questions about, things that are real world that could happen, and they address that. Additionally, the faculty and administrators are very supportive and absolutely fantastic. I mean, the logistics of everything they do, I don't mean this in a joking way, but honestly, coming in first thing and having a nice breakfast laid out and coffee and refreshments throughout the day and all this just makes the whole process so much nicer. There's a jacket that they gave with the AESE program, a little vest jacket that my parents wanted a copy of. And I went to the Triton store and I couldn't find it. But I mean, just the whole thing is so much more helpful, and they make it so much more easier for people juggling family and full-time careers in order to get this done. And I can't thank them enough. I'd also say that meeting other people in the program, a lot of the people have full-time careers in very similar, business areas. And so it increases our social network. There's people that I talked to that were part of my team still, outside of my team, and it really helps build that up. And in terms of career, I would say just being able to see things at that enterprise level, which, just on the surface area sounds like it might be easy to do, but quite honestly, having that intentionality of looking at everything you do and how you can expand that to have a bigger footprint across multiple programs. These are skills that I still take with me, and things that I do at least weekly in my day-to-day business.
I would add that an unexpected benefit of the program for me was the networking aspect. I never realized that I would meet people from other companies, and we definitely had people swap companies. Like, I mean, once you know someone, we had at least 2 other people come to Qualcomm that were at different companies, and other people have moved around. And even for myself, I think there was 6 or 7 of us from Qualcomm. So I met, 6 other people that were in different departments in Qualcomm, which I could then, I had a working relationship with now. And if I was, say, tired of my current role, I would feel very comfortable reaching out to them and saying, hey, you got any openings over in what you're doing? And I'm sure they would give me a glowing recommendation because we work so close together. So I really thought that was a pretty cool benefit of the program that I totally didn't think about when I was coming in.
Yeah, I'll just add from the AESE, I think they nailed it right on the dot. I thought the professors were amazing. I don't know if the other programs were like this, but something that I thought was unique about AESE is not all the professors, actually most of the professors were not necessarily UCSD professors. They brought in lecturers and professors that were experts across the country and the world. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous of John because I was the COVID year, so we didn't get any of that amazing food. So I'm a little jealous on that, but no, I thought the professors, and then you guys hit it right on the dot with the teammates was probably one of the biggest takeaways. Like, I had an amazing team. I still talk to my teammates quite often. And then the connections just beyond my team was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were definitely a lot of valuable connections. Before even getting into the program, one of my goals was to kind of reconnect with a lot of the, like the C4ISR kind of stuff with software radios. And I used to work a lot of that in SPAWAR back in the day before it became NIWIC. And what has come about since then, obviously, I mentioned earlier, I got to switch jobs to Amazon, get to apply a lot of that degree. But a lot of old dreams that were kind of closed off because I didn't have a master's kind of opened up, where even right now, there's opportunities to become a Naval Reserve officer in engineering duty. A lot of that's actually coming to fruition because of the degree that I now have, thanks to the program. And so definitely a lot of doors open up in parallel with your primary career, as well as the relationships with folks that will definitely last a lifetime.
Yeah, I'll say that the networking extends even beyond just the cohort that you're in. I often run into people at work who've also done the program, and we immediately know what everyone has gone through, and that really helps in setting a baseline. And then on top of that, even with meetings like this, I just met Michael, who apparently we work together, so that's great, and I'll be reaching out.
I love that. That's awesome. Just like this alumni network, even just right here, still making those connections. And that's also one thing that we are planning to do as we emerge from the pandemic is kind of revive this alumni network. So Mike, we will probably give you the opportunity to have some of the amazing food. So stay tuned for future events. So to wrap up, kind of, it's really just an open floor to our alumni here. If you have any words of wisdom for anyone considering the programs, the floor is yours. We'd love to just hear some of those final words before we go into our Q&A session.
I want to give some advice to people that are considering the WEST program. MATLAB, knowing how to program MATLAB, I don't think that was stressed enough, and I'm assuming that's still a requirement. At least it was for when I attended. And I know there was a handful of people that were like, whoa, where'd that come from? And a lot of homework was due. So it's like learning a brand new programming language. So that's definitely worth your time to try to maybe watch some YouTube videos or something on that before coming in. That and probability. I'm assuming they haven't changed the course structure. There's a secret probability class in there that they call DSP2. And it's really should have been called estimation theory.
They call it 265 now, and it's still tough.
Is it still called DSP2?
No, it has a longer name.
Okay, so they called it DSP2 for us. So I was expecting maybe advanced IR filters or something funny like that. And it was all estimation theory, like advanced probability. So if you're a little weak on probability, and I'm assuming that's a big part of the class still, because estimating wireless signals is the name of the game. If you're weak there, you will struggle on that class. So probability and MATLAB, I highly recommend you brush up on those two things before you come in, and you'll probably have a more enjoyable time in the WEST program.
Yeah, I would echo that. And then I'll also say that the WEST program at least kind of like ping pongs back and forth between topics. So definitely look ahead and see if you're better or not so good at that, and then adjust, because it was like every other class was like, ooh, this is really fun. It's like playing around. And then the next class comes around like, oh, I'm back to actually studying hard again and breaking out the MATLAB. So definitely plan ahead.
Yep. And to add to that on the probability side again, like there are a lot of resources online, especially on YouTube. There's a lot of math tricks that we ended up having to employ in the program. And given that you only have 10 weeks to kind of sift through it, it can be very daunting and very overwhelming. So definitely take some time to review those things ahead of time, so that way you're more familiar with it and can just kind of roll with it. Because when things start getting behind, it can start to look like Greek really, really fast, and you won't know one arm from the other one. So just some bit of advice.
I'll say that the program obviously is amazing. I'm a huge advocate for the program, and people should really think of it as sort of like the magic of compound interest, right? Is if I'm 55 and I save 100 grand, by the time I get to retirement, it might double, maybe quadruple. But if I would have saved that much if I was 20, how much further would it be, right? It would easily be enough to retire on very easily. I feel the same way about the program that I took. It was great. It's helped my career a lot. My only regret is that I didn't know about it and take it much sooner, because I feel that it would have had an even bigger impact than it already has had. Just nothing but accolades and compliments for the program and the staff.
For folks considering AESE, I would say my biggest piece of advice is a big part of the program is a team project, and it will be a common thread throughout the entire program. And so nailing down your team project early on is absolutely pivotal, because all of your finals, they didn't tell you this until the end, but all of your finals actually lead to your final thesis report. And so if you don't nail down your project at the very beginning, you get to enjoy the fact that you get to redo it all. So nailing it down early is really, really key. And then I'll just say, we talked about this earlier, but just be prepared to commitment, but it's definitely a doable program.
I would just add, it would probably be overstating it to say that doing this master's program is a form of self-care, because self-care is something different that you will also need. But you know how during the workday you're answering emails and you're working on stuff for other people, and there's stuff that you need to get done and you put it to the end of the day, or maybe it's Friday, you're doing the thing you wanted to do on Monday. I felt like when I took this program, it was giving me that feeling I get when I'm doing something that I needed to get done. Like I'm investing in myself. I'm doing something for me that matters to me. And I think, especially with how technology comes at us and feeds us stuff, not enough of our day is spent on doing things purposefully, thinking long range, investing in ourselves. And so, yes, there's things that are going to make you crazy. You're going to be tired. You're going to say, there will be a few points you say, why'd I do this? But most of it, you're going to feel good that you invested in yourself and you did something for you.
Any other words of wisdom? Good.
Yeah, I got one. When it comes to the project, to just piggyback on that, I know it sounds hard to be able to do it. I know it was hard when I took the program to be able to, but I know I was attempting to select a project as far back as 1 year in advance. And I know that a lot of times we don't feel like we know enough, but what I found towards the end of the program is that most of us ended up picking roughly the same or similar types of projects. So feel free to talk with Yvonne, and she can connect you guys with our gals, with any of us, or along the alumni and a lot of the existing catalogs of projects that have been done by past cohorts to get some ideas on what you can do. A lot of it really is just, the last 2 quarters will breeze by really fast. I mean, that's like barely 20 weeks worth of stuff, and trying to run a 20-week program to get a whole project done is really, really overwhelming. And so getting a lot of the challenges that I know in the WS program that we faced were getting like the software set up, getting the environment set up. And that's not the applied theory component of the project, right? And that's where really we're being evaluated on. And so getting a lot of those foundational pieces set up far earlier, so that way we can start to experiment on like some of the applied theory components as we start to learn it. That would be, if I could do it over again, that's kind of what I would do. And so that would be my bit of advice.
I'm going to cut in real quick. Speaking of capstones, the data science and engineering capstone and the wireless embedded systems programs, both of those programs are actually having their capstone presentations on Friday, June 9th. So if any of you out there are interested in viewing that via Zoom, it will be live streamed on Zoom. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me and I can send you all the Zoom information for that. So the data science engineering program, it'll be an all day. They have, I think, 8 groups this year, starting at 9 a.m. and it'll probably go close to 5. So if you're interested in that, I can definitely send you the information. And then for wireless embedded system, we have 2 groups this year, and they'll be starting around 3 or so. So definitely feel free to reach out to me if you want information on how to view that via Zoom.
Excellent point, Yvonne. And if anyone is curious about AESE, those capstones are not until the end of August. So similarly, if you are interested, just reach out to me and we can be in touch a bit closer to that date. There is one thing I wanted to add to you, just again, as having been a full-time student while working, if anybody is hesitant about still giving up, Fridays and Saturdays, the program that I went to, it was every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, from 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. every week. And it was really challenging. And so again, it was 1 year, so it was still doable. But seeing the schedule that we provide here, I say this is much more friendly for working professionals, even though mine was still targeting working professionals. So if that's something of concern, the Friday, Saturday thing, and then for AESE, you have a once per quarter 4-day workshop in person. I think it is much more like friendly, but you still will have to put in the hard work. as everyone has said. We do have an important deadline coming up, though, if you are interested in applying or you have an application that is almost ready to be submitted. Our application deadline is coming up soon. It's June 7th. So just be sure to submit then, or if you do have any questions, concerns, possible delay, just reach out to us, let us know, and we'll give you some options. And with that, I think it's time now to open up the floor to our prospective students here. If you have any questions, it's kind of a first come, first serve. Floor is yours.
Hi, this is Harper Strickland. I am planning to start the DSE program this fall, so really looking forward to it. And I'm just curious, for the alums, did any of you access helpful UCSD resources outside of the program? And if so, what were those? Thank you.
Well, I'm a UCSD employee, and so I was keenly aware of what I newly had access to and knew about the things, whereas other people might not have. They do give you, I think, a parking credit or parking's included, I think, with DSE also. But I think you, as a student, you get access to the gym. So if you don't have to, pay for a gym, and the facilities are pretty nice, and so that might interest you. Then you also get access to anything with student pricing. So there's a craft center. So if you want to take all sorts, I mean, they even have surfboard shaping now. Like, I can't even keep up with the crazy cool stuff they have. You can take pottery classes. Honestly, I've used my graduate ID a lot for movie discounts, like all over the world, like at museums and stuff. So there's that. But those are the two things that come to mind, like getting access to the UCSD programs at the student price and being able to register. I'm sure you could also do outdoor adventures, but maybe some other people found others. So the library, which also means obviously, maybe you're not as interested in going to the library to check out a physical book because that seems very antiquated, but you get all the journal access. So you can get VPN access and then, read, things that otherwise you'd hit a paywall. You get a New York Times subscription. I think they give you Wall Street Journal. I think now we have the Times of London or something like that. So I make use of those too. And some of these, they're not so good about turning off later when you're not a student.
And I think from an academic perspective, you have access to a lot of the wider UC system too. So I know for our capstone project, not only did we get to partner with the Supercomputer Center, and we got to sort of get inside there, but we then also leveraged what other University of California were doing. And then as an alumna, I can tell you that being just in the thread of communication, it's pretty interesting that the emails that you get and the events that you can attend and things like that. So I wasn't sure if your question was more related on the academic side or on the social side.
I didn't have any specific answer in mind. I was just curious what ideas you would have. Thank you.
There are also sorry. I was going to say though, there's tons of other centers. Like if you have time and are motivated or interested, maybe I'll find a link. There's tons of different centers that you can get involved in. I've personally spent time at the Women's Center with some of their programming. There's tons of we have a Costco club now, which is probably the funniest Instagram account that you could follow, the UCSD Costco Club. I'll put a link in the chat.
I was going to mention just music. If you're interested in like music and theater, I believe students get free or very reduced access to a lot of things. And I think there's the new amphitheater on campus as well. It's pretty impressive. The Epstein Amphitheater and Family Amphitheater, I believe, and just all the other theaters and venues on campus. So really, really awesome resources for just bringing you into that student mindset.
I know UCSD also has a makerspace. I don't know. I'm guessing they're open to all students. So that could be a good resource too, a good space. I visited this past weekend and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I took my kids to that powwow that was on campus. Yeah, there's always something going on. It's a very vibrant, very active community.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? Just one? I'm guessing our alum answered all of their questions, so they have nothing else to ask.
Or they were on Zoom all day and now they've been on Zoom into the evening. But this is good training. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Yeah.
If you're shy, you can ask your question in the chat as well, and we can answer out loud. Up to you guys. If there are no questions, we can wrap it up.
I have one.
Oh, good.
I do have Alex. I'm currently finishing my application for UCSD, and I also have an application in for a program from Georgia Tech where I completed my undergrad, and that's a fully online program. So I think my question for the alumni is: were there any other programs or institutions that you were considering? And then, if so, can you talk about the differences and what made you end up choosing UCSD in the end?
Yeah, I considered Georgia Tech, and I also I got into Berkeley, but this is also pre-COVID, so there's a bit of a history here. So what I liked about UCSD before it went online because of COVID was that it was in person, and you did have that interaction with not just the professors and that sort of deep knowledge that University of California, San Diego has, but it was that personal touch and the small group projects that we did have. And although we wound up online, I'm still very close to my group. And, you know, as we talked about, some were on Slack, we're on Discord, and there's still, I mean, to the point where there's a woman now at Apple here in the AI program, and she's tutoring my kids in math every Saturday because we sat next to each other at graduation. And I said, I can't handle that my kids come home saying they hate math. You know, things like that. So it's a great program. Berkeley's is an immersion type program. I think Georgia Tech is all online. So you're just not going to get that human touch. And it's a bit ironic given we're talking about artificial intelligence, but that sort of that human piece is probably what makes, for me, what made the difference and still does every day.
I resonate that very well with Eleanor, because for me also, when it's the same question when I was looking for a master's in data science program, Berkeley was emerging and Georgia Tech was there. But I was in San Diego, and then again, for me, online education is great, but and also, as Christine said, like investing in yourself. So I know it was hard, but I felt that I did something for myself. I had kids at home, husband, job, but going in person was like, oh, this is something I'm doing for myself. This is my time. This is me time. That kept me motivating. And then, as Eleanor said, like, I have made friends for life. Now our kids play together. Our kids have play dates. And my best friend now is somebody who was with me in the class. And there was a time that we were even working together at my previous workplace. So nothing trumps that. I do not know a whole lot about Georgia Tech or Berkeley, but I have people who have done, and I just think that the education we got at UCSD is very practical, and I'm able to apply it to my work. So the personal touch thing, and now that we are all coming out of COVID, I can just say, like, guys, nothing beats meeting people in person. And the food is amazing.
I know your question was if we were comparing this to other programs that we may have applied to. I'll say that the only program I applied to was the UCSD AESE program. And the reason was that 3 directors from my company that were high performing and who I highly respected had all graduated from that program. And I asked them about it and they said, you know, just accolades about everything about it. And so because of that, it was the only program that interested me.
Nice.
I would just add, so my project was actually on online education. It was like way too early. People were like, oh, that will never work. Anyway, so we didn't implement the project, but I have spent a lot of time teaching online. I would say online teaching was never meant to replace in person. It's for people who can't make it in person. And so if you find a program that you love the curriculum, it's unique, you should do that. If you have a chance to do it in person, there's just things you're going to get out of it that you don't really get online. Sorry, COVID cohorts, but we'll catch you up. We'll get together. We'll have some drinks. But yeah, and if you know with your life situation that you can't do the in-person and you need to cut some corners and the online works, then maybe that is right. But I would also say UCSD stock is way up. Like we always say we're the youngest of the best. Like every year we go up in the rankings. So we're not Berkeley, but you're going to get treated like a VIP in the program. You're going to be one of 30 people, maybe, like having regular conversations with, you know, prominent scientists. And I don't think you can beat that. I actually have one of my colleagues, he couldn't do an in-person. So he did the online at Georgia Tech and he loved it, but he didn't get the connection and fun piece out of it. It was mostly just work.
Thank you.
I would echo that, Christine. I think the ability to have access to these very well-renowned, very well-respected professors, and you know, that is just paramount. You're not going to get that in many other institutions.
I just wanted to quickly point out, Ryan posted in the chat his experience. His cohort was virtual the first year and then in person the second, and both were high quality, but in person really left an impression. So thank you for sharing that, Ryan. And we also have a question specifically for data science and engineering. How was a typical day like in the program?
I'm going to Disha, do you want to take that? Because mine was online, so it
little different.
Very different.
Yeah. I want to start by saying that I used to look forward to the alternate Fridays and Saturdays to come to school. So it was like very well structured program that you go in, you have your breakfast, then you have like at length like half a day worth of lectures with some breaks in between, and then you had your lunch, and then you had the second set. My advice is don't eat too much, even the food is good, because that'll put you to sleep in the second half. But yes, the classes were like, the curriculum was so focused, and then it was like a very collaborative experience. And the professors were like state of art. Like I still remember studying in Professor Yob's class, and then I still boast about saying like, oh, my professor was the person who kind of invented ADA boosting, you know? So when you have quality teachers and very good quality program, then the whole day will pass very quickly. And then after that, some of our group will stay back later on for an hour or something, and some things which we had to clarify, and we had some things which were allowed that you can work together as homeworks. We'll just stay back, start on like early working on the homeworks. And then during the day, the professors good thing was like the professors would eat lunch with you. So you can ask and have conversations with the professors during the lunchtime, and you can ask them questions. And Stacy was there, so sometimes we'll just hang out with Stacy also, and we'll talk about things. So over and all, I would just say that it was great academia, but also it was like a really good social circle there. I do not know if I answered your question, but if you have some specifics, I can give you deeper answers.
I think you did a great job answering that question. Thank you. Good food and good networking. Thank you, Cynthia.
And we definitely enjoy having breakfast and lunch with you guys as well. That's a huge highlight of our day.
Yeah, just to add, for those who may not know, I think it was mentioned that parking's included with the tuition, but meals on class days also included. You are provided breakfast and lunch on class days so that you can focus on class and not have to go searching for food or, wait in line with the other students on campus that are around. So, breakfast is typically 8 to 9 in the morning, and then you go to class, and then lunch from 12 to 1, and then you go back to class till the end of the day.
And I remember a lot of free coffee all day.
Yes, we try to keep our students caffeinated throughout the day because it is a long day. Oh, yes. Thank you, Kristen. Course materials are also covered in your tuition costs.
Yeah. And the best part is you're not having to figure out, like, as an undergraduate, like, what's the book? Did I get the right edition? It's just they're the first day of the class because you don't have time to figure that out. They want you to just like be on task. It was really nice. I wish the rest of my life was organized so well.
Do we have any more questions, or any of our alum want to share anything else?
I want to say one thing here, like choose your capstone, right? Because that's where the most fun is. That's where you're working together. And for example, our capstone was like awesome. We were working on this. It was like a computer vision problem to see if your heart is healthy or not. And we were working with some real data sets from the hospitals and everything. So I think the whole program was great, but that capstone is kind of life changing because even though I've been in data science ML world for a very long time, but whenever I go for the interview and somebody asks me what's the best project in ML space that you worked on, and I just always tell like this was the closest to my heart, so I'm going to talk about it. So I think your capstone is like the really hands-on problems that you will end up solving when you go into this domain in the real world. So be very careful about the capstone and don't shy away asking questions and do something which is like different than what you're already doing, because that's where all the fun is.
When you get to decide what you want to do for your capstone, is it later or is it early in the program?
From my experience, on the first day, when we were introducing each other, I don't know if we were asked to kind of present our potential capstone idea, or I can't really remember, but one person actually stated what they plan to work on, and that personally I didn't have a capstone idea to begin with. So when that person like kind of shared that idea that I am also interested in, but okay, sorry. Basically, what I'm trying to say is in the very beginning, I had the idea of the capstone project, and then throughout the 2 years until we actually start the capstone, I kind of kept that in mind. So whatever I learn, I'll think about how I can apply to the capstone project. So everyone is different. You don't have to have one in the very beginning, but you don't have to wait till the end to to choose one. And they're pretty open about what you pick, as long as they're related to what you're learning. And like for me, it's WES. So as long as it's related to wireless embedded systems, then most likely they'll be okay with it. And you'll want to find some people who have the same interest, or else you don't want to be alone, like a one-person group.
And that might be a little different in AESE versus the other two. In AESE, you're going to have a group, choose a project. Some groups come in with their project because they're sponsored by their company. And so that gets settled pretty early. Sometimes you might change things slightly to, you realize that I don't know, it's not going to work right for one portion of the program, but that's usually not a problem. And the advisor works with you to refine the idea.
I just wanted to add for DSC and WES for wireless embedded systems, there is a capstone course at the end of your second year spring quarter where you are focused on completing the capstone project. You may start kind of thinking about things and working on things the quarter before, or get introduced to kind of the logistics of how the capstone project is going to go. But of course, students start thinking about it early on, even before starting the program. Kind of same with data science. I've had students come up and, during their first year already ask me questions on what's going to happen with the capstone. But officially, the capstone advisor for data science doesn't really introduce the capstone project until the second year winter quarter. For DSE specifically, it's broken up into 2 quarters. You start it in winter and you finish it in spring. So it's a 2-part capstone. But of course, people ask about capstone, start thinking about ideas. With data science, there's also a list of potential projects that the capstone director or advisor kind of gives students that they can pick from, or of course they can talk to her about potentially a project of their own on a different topic that they're interested in. And I also want to share that with data science, we do have a collection of their reports posted in the library. So if you're interested in checking those out, definitely reach out to me and I can send you the link to that collection. Do we have any more questions as we wrap up? Hearing silence, so I'm guessing there's no more questions. Any last words from our alumni panel? Before you guys say anything, I want to thank you guys so much for participating. We love hearing from you. We love seeing you at these events. And as Stacy said, we're hoping to have more alumni events now that we're sort of going back to normal with things and being able to hold more events in person. So I really hope to be able to, get to connect with a lot of you in person in the future. But we cannot thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend this, to be a part of this, to answer questions, to provide your experience. So I just really thank you for being here today and being a part of this.
I absolutely agree. Thank you all so much for carving out time and providing such wonderful information for all of us.
Great. I guess that wraps it up. Again, if anybody has any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to Stacy or I. We are happy to answer. A reminder, our next application deadline is Wednesday, June 7th. But if you have any concerns with that or, need extensions or anything, please let us know. And we're happy to answer any application questions and anything you may have. So, yep, we're here for you, and we hope to see an application from you or hope to welcome you into the program and all of that fun stuff. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And with that, we will end this event. So thank you all.
Night, everyone.
Thanks. Take